On this week's episode, Faheem and Bryan sit down with Janet Bava of AmaWaterways as they discuss the future of travel. We pick up the episode now as Faheem's introducing Janet.
AmaWaterways. She is the CMO at River Cruise Lines. We've been partners for a long time with Janet, and she's just wonderful. I had a really good conversation with her preparing for the Zoom chat today. Bryan and I are co-hosting her. Bryan is our CEO and founder of Lamark. And Janet, I feel like Janet and Bryan go way back. Janet, I'd love for you to share how you initially met Bryan, and how this whole thing came about, and then we'll kind of set the stage for all the things we're going to cover today.
Absolutely. So, been in the travel industry for a very long time and focused in marketing. I graduated with my marketing and international business degree, and I am living the dream as a CMO of AmaWaterways. Amazing opportunity. Joined the company about 18 months ago. As you can tell by my accent, I'm a Miami native. I am of Hispanic descent. And so I grew up in the cruise capital of the world and spent a little time in the theme park industry. When I was with my former company, a luxury ocean and expedition cruise line, I had the fortune of meeting Bryan. And I think, the travel industry is a very incestuous industry. Everyone kind of knows each other. And it was one of those things where we had the opportunity to start exploring conversations. And you know what, from the moment that I met Bryan, I knew that we should work together in some capacity because he had a lot of experience from a data and digital perspective. And my experience is more around CRM and data. And so I felt meshing the two, and in the world that we live in today, as much as marketing and technology has merged together, that we just really needed to work together. And so the moment that I landed here in California, beautiful Calabasas, California, I called upon Bryan and I said, I think this is our chance to finally work together and do some amazing things. AmaWaterways, over 95% of our business comes from the travel advisor community. They have supported this brand for the last 18 years that we have been in operations. And so it was incredibly important for us to generate brand awareness for the travel advisor community because they came to us and said to us, we don't really know who AmaWaterways, our guests don't know who AmaWaterways is, and we just really need help for you all to really get your name out there. And so Bryan and his team have been helping us, tell the story of AmaWaterways to the world.
Awesome. No, thank you for sharing. I think feelings are mutual from the Lamarck end as well, and you're one of our best partners. So thank you for that.
I was happy to get the call, Janet. We were actually working on moving our offices, and I think I was at a furniture vendor or something, and I get Janet's call. She's like, Bryan, I've got news for you. I'm like, yeah, let's go.
So, let's do this. So it's been, and it was honestly right until about all of this has hit, it was really phenomenal what we were able to achieve together just in a short year. I mean, we didn't even complete one full year operating under the AmaWaterways umbrella. We've known each other for much longer than that, but it was amazing just to see what we were able to accomplish as a team. Yeah. So thank you.
Yeah, and just from our side, one of our most loved accounts at the company, and we look at you as family. And when this whole thing happened, we said, we're here, whatever you need, you guys are family. And coming out to visit, I think we visited 3 times now.
Yes.
And just had amazing experiences.
Had some In-N-Out burgers.
When is happy hour starting? Conversation at
yes.
noon. But just great time with the teams, and just amazing alignment on every level, from ethics to point of view to value creation, and it's just been a wonderful partnership that we believe will continue for many, many years. And it's been awesome. When I first met Janet, I'm like, we got to work together. And we tried at a couple of runs, and we finally got a chance. So I appreciate that call, and I appreciate your partnership and friendship even more.
It was definitely meant to be. We have a great case study to share to the world.
Sure.
Absolutely.
1 + 1 = 3.
Yeah. Amazing. So today we're going to be covering, really at a high level, the future of travel, and we're gonna tap into Janet's headspace, right? So we're going to get into what happened when COVID hit. We're going to talk about how is she doing today, and how is she leading her team and her company and her organization forward. What's her vision for the future? And we'll keep the conversation pretty fluid, almost like we're sort of just hanging out and having coffee. I'd love to also learn Janet, how you're managing a remote program and remote team, especially for a global company like AMA, and then finally get into some of the goal setting and so on and so forth. So let's start there. What happened when COVID hit? What was going through your mind, and what were some of the internal kind of dialogue?
I think like everyone, we saw it coming. We started hearing rumblings about it, but we didn't want to really believe that it was going to impact us in a big way. No, and so we had it, we started hearing about it, end of January, early February, as we do have sailings in a beautiful Mekong River in Vietnam and Cambodia. And so although we were, far from what was going on in China and what have you, we, our guests do have to travel through a lot of, from based on airlift, they have to travel through a lot of cities that were more near to what, where the situation was happening. And so, we quickly put together a game plan. I think, we are, as leaders of the organization, started to meet and talk about, okay, how are we going to take care of our Mekong product to ensure the safety and the health of our guests, so that we continue to operate as safely as possible. We never imagined in a million years having to suspend all cruise operations, the 23 ships that we have sailing through Africa, Europe, and Asia. And I remember it was, very early on, our leader, known as the godfather of river cruising, Rudy Schreiner, that said to us in a meeting, listen, worst case scenario, we suspend cruises for a whole year and we just don't sail and we wait for this storm to pass. And I wanted to cry when I heard him say that, because I could not believe, I still get goosebumps when I say that, because I remember the feeling that I had at that point in time, thinking that he was absolutely crazy for thinking that we would suspend operations after everything that we had worked so hard to obtain to fill those ships. And so the season was about to start in Europe. The crates of food and wine had arrived. The ships were parked in different cities in Europe, and the guests were about to arrive, and we had to pull the plug and suspend operations and ensure that these guests did not get on a plane. The second week of March, I apologize, as our Europe season was about to begin. That week, we also, a couple of weeks prior, we had decided to suspend, of course, our Mekong operations. We just wanted to ensure that our ships did not get quarantined. We wanted to react quickly. We wanted to be as agile as possible and ensure that we were putting our guests first. We were not thinking about the financial impact of losing all the food and all the wine. We were thinking about, let's make sure that this not to become a bigger problem. Our guests don't get stuck in a country that, they can't get back home. And so we were very quick to react. I would say I'm very proud of that leadership. Where we were 6 to 8 weeks ago and seeing us where we are today at as a different organization, operating very differently than we were, but incredibly proud that we were able to react so quickly and just really ensure that everyone was taken care of, and we didn't set sail and get ourselves, in bigger trouble, as we have seen some of the folks that have had, more challenges.
Yeah. No, I appreciate you sharing that. The month of March felt like an entire year. And for a lot of us,
Yes.
right? We kept talking about when things go back to normal, I feel like this is the new normal, right? For now, at least. Mm-hmm. How are you thinking about the world today?
Yes.
We're almost 2 months into this thing.
Right. And so I feel like if March was so long ago, really long ago. And in March, we live in the state of California, and we were one of the first states that got our governor's order to shut down. And so while we were trying to figure out what was happening with our ships around the world, we had employees to take care of, and we had to make sure that, they're home safely. And so we were very fortunate. We have a lot of financial stability, and so we have not furloughed or laid off any of our employees. So we have a full operating corporate staff that's working remotely. And so we were also very fortunate. We have an amazing IT department. They had implemented Teams. And I remember a couple of weeks before they implemented Microsoft Teams, everybody was really skeptical about adopting Teams. And at this point in time, I could tell you on May 6th that we have everyone, including our president and our owners, working off of Teams and chatting and more accessible than ever before. So what does the future look like? It's going to look like a progressive start. So we are talking every day, and I can tell you that it's great to be able to change the conversation from suspensions and refunds or future cruise credits and trying to push that business forward, because there is a lot of pent up demand and people are going to want to travel at one point in time. We just cannot travel now. So what the future looks like is we are looking at every single country that we sail through, looking at how they're handling the current situation and working with our supplier friends in the air, hotel business that we rely on to be able to deliver a guest experience, to ensure that we can coordinate efforts and deliver the safest experience. We will not put any passengers on board unless we're 100% certain that we can deliver the experience that AmaWaterways is known for and not impacting the guest in any way.
I love that. I love that. Bryan, I know we've been talking a lot about how Ama has been so, the customer centricity of Ama. Amazon prides itself to be the most customer centric company in the world. Now look, they're also one of the largest companies in the world. So Jeff Bezos gets a lot of attention there. But Bryan, I know we've talked a lot about how Ama always puts the customer first. So would love for you to, share a few thoughts in terms of your observations with Janet.
Yeah.
It's a really simple, I think, theory. It's very hard to implement. And I think as an organization who you have financial, I think responsibilities, it sometimes becomes hard in complete candidacy. But I think I have never in my life seen anything like what our leaders believe, that it's our people first and then our customers. And if we take care of our people, our customers will be taken care of. And we have seen that. I get goosebumps when I say that, because we have seen the most beautiful stories come out from this. We have two sets of customers. I mentioned previously that Ama's over 95% of our business come from the trade community. So our customers are not only the guests that sail with us, but they're the travel advisors who sell us. They're the ones that are responsible for the growth of this company and, really introducing our brand to their client base. And so we had to respond to two sets of customers. And it was incredible the amount of insights that we gathered, because we were very accessible. We listened. We would make a decision and we would hear right away, some negative feedback about that decision, or why that, something that we may not have thought of because we were working so quickly. And we were so agile in changing that. And everyone was so appreciative, right? We had, people tell us, people are uncertain whether they're going to sail again and their final payments due. Right away, within 24 hours, we extended final payment from 90 days to 60 days. So we were very much listening to our customers the entire way, every single day, and reacting, and they appreciated that. They really have, and it helped us move the business forward. We started seeing a lot less cash refunds being issued, a lot more future cruise credits being issued, saying, you know what, I'm going to stick with Ama. I know I'm going to cruise at one point in time. And so let me take advantage of this 15% future cruise credit, which in today's market, I think no one's getting 15% on the dollar, 115% on their dollars. So they really saw the value of that. We proved to be, making the right decisions by their side. And that really helped us, move that business forward and retain a lot of the business that we've lost in this, the spring season this year, which is really our peak sailing season.
I can add one thing that I called Janet up after I saw one of the emails that went out, and it said, all the unfortunate news, but here's two options. Option one is a full refund or a credit of the 115%. And I personally was dealing, it's not anymore, an issue with the cruise line that we booked for the family. I won't call out the name of the cruise line, but they were being very difficult, very difficult. They were saying, well, technically your cruise is April 30th and we've canceled cruises to April 28th. So technically there's no refund. We're considering a credit. We couldn't even get a credit. And we're like, we're in a quarantine. Like what's going on? And they were really, really difficult. They finally refunded it after it was necessary because they canceled the cruise date. It was just such a different experience from offering your customers, your family, hey, we understand what's going on. We want you to come back with us when you feel safe. We're willing to give you those dollars back. You need it more than ever. And let's offer it to you. Let's be proactive versus me literally getting on the phone and can I call Amex and get a refund? It was bad. It was bad. And it's such a different experience where if I was a customer of Ama and that's the offer I got, I was like, wow, these people care about me. This is where I'm going to sail. And the other experience, we're done with them, like done. And it's a big cruise line for families. But I'm done with it. It's like, why do I have to call and beg and plead to get a refund when there's a pandemic happening?
Right.
Like, you know, so just when I saw that, I was like, this is why we love working with you guys. Like, this is
literally like
the same thing we're doing with our clients. It's the same conversation that we, I won't share, but that me and Jenna had when this all happened. It was like, we're here. We're your family. We're not going anywhere. We'll work it out. Like, all good. Right?
It's painful when you have the financials in the book and, and all of a sudden you're just giving millions of dollars in refund. It's painful, but we knew at that very moment that would return if we did right by our customer side. And we saw immediately, it was days, weeks when we started getting the word out, because we also, that 115% future cruise credit, if you had purchased air through us, hotel through us, everything got a 115 value upgrade. And so the cruise certificate, so people are now, not only are they sailing and pushing that business to the forward, they're saying, now that I have to wait until next year to sail, I'm going to add another week. I'm going to upgrade to business. And so we are actually now seeing additional revenue coming from this business that we have retained. We even had, clients, our core demographic is 50 plus, which we all heard early on. Right now it's hitting everyone. It does not have an age, restriction in terms of the virus. But, early on we had heard it was really the elderly that were at biggest risk. And of course, those that have health issues. And so that's our core demographic, 50 plus. And we had guests call us up in the beginning and say to us, listen, I don't know if I'm going to be around next year. I don't know if I could, ever, travel again. And, the moment that we did right by their side, they had gotten a cash refund. They called us back and they said, when they realized what it was, the value that we're getting, they're like, can we get a future cruise credit now? I really want to, what, because I guess what, if I can't sail, I will give this to my child, their 40-year-old, 50-year-old child, that they still call children, of course. So it was really great to see that when you do right by the customer side, and you don't make a financial decision based on your policies, et cetera, it really does pay off in the long run. And so we're finally moving away from the discussions about cancellations and suspensions, and now talking about when we start back up and how quickly, and is it going to be progression, like certain countries and certain areas and region first. And so we're looking through that, and it's very motivating as a leader in the organization where, after 6 weeks of really, a lot of stress, a lot of long hours, that we are seeing that light at the end of the tunnel.
Absolutely. Janet, the conversation you and I had yesterday, the one thing I took away from it, if I could bucket it in one, maybe 2 words, is brand obsession. I think that you thrive off of the concept of getting others to believe in the mission and the vision that you and the AMA team have. Talk to us a little bit about the brand obsessive nature of AMA, how you are, in quote, navigating these waters, right?
Right.
Yes, of course, putting the customer first, but walk us through your playbook right now as a CMO of a cruise line. How are you playing offense and getting through the crisis?
Yeah, absolutely. I think, this happened in the middle of what we call wave season in the cruise industry, which is in the travel industry overall, it's one of the busiest booking season. And so it's very competitive landscape, and the most aggressive offers in the travel community come out during this time period. And so, when you see the numbers, right, and the refunds and the reduction in load factor and all these different KPIs that we're looking at as an organization kind of fall and dwindle, the first reaction is like, well, let's price them, let's discount, let's get whatever we can get at this point in time. And I think as a brand, we need to protect it. We are a luxury brand, and we know our luxury clientele are educated, and it's never going to be about price when we come back and start sailing again. It's going to be who is the brand that they trust to deliver a healthy and a safe experience for them. Because everybody from a products and features perspective, right? Everybody has the best ships and the best, food and what have you. So where do we win? There's a lot of passion and commitment that comes from our leadership, and we want to ensure that we don't cut corners. And so if we discount our pricing, we're going to have to cut corners. We're going to have to maybe cut down on cleaning personnel that's going to be, cleaning your staterooms more frequently or the public areas more frequently. And we don't want to do that. And so as an organization right now, as a brand, we want to make sure that we're connecting and staying connected. Everything that we do is about personal connections, whether that's our crew personally connecting with our guests when we're sailing, or our sales team personally connecting with the travel advisors who sell us. And so as a brand right now, what we're really thriving off are these personal connections. And so we've launched Webinar Wednesdays to ensure that we're listening to our travel advisor community. We're just really being as accessible as we can and not being too salesy or promotional. Right now, it's more about, let's take this time that we all have a little bit more time in our hands because we're home to educate ourselves and inspire, future travel. Let's go and dream. Let's go and reminisce about the memories that we've made when we were traveling. And let's, and so what we're doing this point in time, as we're connecting with them, we're actually educating them on our product offering on all of our ships, all of our destinations. We're giving, we're doing virtual cruise nights, and every week we feature a product, whether that's the Danube River or the Rhine River. And so guests are more engaged than ever. Because they're home. Our engagements, we're not doing, unfortunately, paid social because we've had to cut that budget, but they're more engaged with us than ever before. And that engagement, we all know, helps, right, to increase your visibility within social media. And so as a brand, it's very important for us to stay connected, whether that's with our guests during these times or with our travel advisors. And so using our own channels, because we, our website, our emails, our social media, and it's, although volume wise, it's not high, it's about the quality, right? Right now, it's not about quantity, it's about quality, and so we really appreciate just really staying connected. And making sure that our brand is protected and that people know that we still stand for what we stood for 3 months ago, 6 weeks ago, 8 weeks ago, and we will always stand for, we create memories and we sell beautiful experiences to travel, for families to travel together, for couples to travel together. And I think, that's where we win as a brand. It's not about talking about our innovative ships or, all of our features and all of the benefits. It's really talking about the passion that we all have in travel. There's a lot of passion in river cruising that comes from our leaders because they started the river cruise industry, in 1992 when the main Danube Canal opened up in Europe. And so it's this passion that you hear in my voice right now. It's real. You cannot make this up. And so we want to ensure that this transpires through everything that we do marketing wise.
Absolutely. I feel like you and I can jam all day. There's so much overlap in the way you look at the world and the way we look at the world. Bryan, I'll pass you the mic to just focus on the future of cruising.
Yeah.
Yeah. So first of all, I want to say that I think now is, we talked a lot about this in these sessions and a couple other podcast kind of things I've done, is now's the time when you show people who you are. And I think everything Janet's saying is being that, that partner for their guests and for their customers, and showing them who they are, between offering the refunds and continuing the content and helping them still dream about their future vacations and exploring the world. Like, now is when you do that more, so people know who you are. And I think it's super important.
Planting the seed, right? That's what we call it, like planting the seed. And we know that we're planting seed now. We may not see it flourish, but we will see this all flourish when the time is right.
I don't think people are changing their view. If you look at prior to COVID, cruising was at an all-time high, travel was at an all-time high. Even me in my personal life, one of my goals this year was to travel more, even internationally. There's an event I was supposed to be going to for a marketing board that I'm on that's in May in London. That's not happening. But I said, look, there's a huge world out there. Why wait till we're older to explore it? And I was even texting my wife like these funny memes of, like an elderly couple in Italy on a gondola sleeping. It's like, we don't want to be that, And so, so I think all those things are moving in the right direction. Obviously, this pandemic now causes a safety issue, which I think Janet touched on a little bit around. Do you feel safe traveling abroad? Do you feel safe on a cruise ship? Do you feel safe at a hotel? And I think that's an element we have to get over, and that'll be through how the companies and brands assess the safety and how they can show that they have those things in a space where you should be happy to cruise or happy to travel. And part of it's just on the medical scenario of how we get some type of treatment or a vaccine. But I think intent is still there. I think people want to explore.
Intent is
people want to see this big, beautiful world that we live in. And I think, all those things that were trending in that direction for a reason, globalization of people is there. And I think so there's going to be a certain amount of time when people are starting to ramp back into that behavior. But I think the goal of exploring the world and the goal of seeing these beautiful sites, like when we first went through one of the video tour concepts from AMA, because I haven't been on one of the ships yet, but a goal of mine.
You got to take care of that soon.
I'm in.
Start.
exactly.
All of you are invited, all your listeners. We're going to have to figure out how we get you all on board to experience this wonderful product. Because I can tell you that river cruising we get lumped in with cruising, and I honestly, with all my experience with ocean cruising, I think people think big ship, lots of activities, belly flop contests and buffets, and it's nothing like that. And so we're really trying to differentiate ourselves from cruising overall. And I think people don't realize there's luxury ocean cruising, which is just 500 passengers. There's expedition. So there's many more products that are cruising. It's not what we see, in mainstream media. It's not what the mass. And so you talked about the future of travel. We all travel suppliers, whether you're a hotel, or an airline or a cruise line, we all depend on each other, right? Because that experience from the moment that you leave your home, you need to get on an airplane if you're going to go to a hotel, or, if you need to we do pre and post. And so it's about aligning ourselves with the brands that deliver, that very much deliver the experience that we deliver and have the same values that we do, so that we can ensure, because, if our guests had a really bad experience, I mean, and I think everybody, the airport, and if I think about the future of travel, I'm hoping that there's a lot of creative people right now sitting at home trying to figure out how we're going to get people out of the airports into a plane and, to be able to travel to different destinations in a way more seamless way than we were doing it before all of this pandemic, because those airports were crowded and it's been stressful, right? Air travel became stressful. And unless you had your business priority, you had your status, it's just a stressful situation. And so I'm excited for the years to come, because I believe technology is going to play a bigger role in travel. And of course, health is going to be important, but I think, more intimate experiences, not so much mass and crowds, because we all, right now we're fearful of coronavirus, but we were at one point fearful of, of terrorism. And so we I think the travel industry is going to advance so much further when we do start back up, because of technology, hopefully, that's being developed at this point in time. There's a lot of creative people, and I'm just so excited to see what's going to come from all of those teams. I mean, there's a lot of hundreds of thousands of people that are working right now from their home office, strategizing what new product are they going to develop to make this experience for travelers so much more seamless than what it is that can be now, or that it was even before COVID hit.
Yeah.
Diversity drives innovation, right? And so
Absolutely.
I think, having these challenges, knowing there's hurdles to get over. You're right. I mean, the air travel process was not enjoyable prior to COVID, and now, and someone's money's harder to earn now, and travel's going to be tougher to sell. And I think people are going to have to get more from it and fix some of these problems prior to COVID, through this challenge. So I think also, like what I was saying on the way the AMA tour worked, is you literally get to sit on this amazing ship on your balcony and tour a country or countries.
Floating
like
hotel.
You're so close. Yeah, it's a floating hotel. You're so close to the shoreline. It's so different than an ocean cruise. And we've worked on cruising for many years here. It's one of the things why we first met, because of the work we did in the industry. And we had river in that scenario also, but it's just so different with these intimate experiences. Everything's curated. Like, the food's amazing, the wine's amazing. But I just said, I want to sit on that balcony at my suite and sit and just watch the world. It's amazing,
exactly.
Right?
And
so people are going to want to do that and just win.
Civilization was built around these rivers, right? Civilization history, right, was built around these rivers, and now we're going back to Egypt and the Nile River, and so you're right. You sail through the cities. You're never in international waters. You're docked right in the city center. So much activities to do. So you're not on board the ship a lot of time, other than when you're sailing through from city to city. And it's so scenic because you're always near land. There's no seasickness, right? Because you're always in a river. And so it really is a very unique product, and it has developed in the last, 20 years. And so it's still very new, and not a lot of people know about river cruising. And I think it even, if you've never been to Europe, I think the future of travel is we're going to have a lot younger generations, and their children. I think, the Gen Xers and the Zennials and everyone, they just want to travel more than our predecessors, right? They have the access. There's many more options. It's more accessible. And so it's really going to be beautiful. To your point, I think there's going to be a lot more leisure travel. I think less business, because we can see that we can operate as businesses, not necessarily taking that business trip to seeing a client. we are going to prove that through this process. So I think it's going to be a lot more leisure travel, a lot more family travel, or just friend travel, like connections, people wanting to reconnect. It's really going to be interesting to see the travel world evolve, but I'm very excited about it because those brands that do survive, and unfortunately we are going to have brands that are not financially stable, that took very much high risk, built a lot of ships, and they just have a lot of debt. So they're not going to survive this, which is very unfortunate, but I'm very excited to see those brands that will survive all of this, because those are going to be the brands that are going to really impress us as to what the product delivery enhancement that they're going to make. I can tell you that our leader, Rudy's talking every single day with our office in Basel and our team in Europe and in Asia and in Africa, designing that new experience so that we can ensure that it is top notch.
I love that. No, that's wonderful. Thank you for sharing. Let's talk a little bit about when we can start cruising again. So Janet, like, what leading indicators are you looking at right now to then work with your team? And just broadly speaking, like, when do you think, knowing what you know today, that people can start cruising again? Janet, I think you're muted.
Yes, I apologize. So I think it's going to be gradual. Whatever it is that we do is we're not going to turn on a switch and just start traveling. And the reason being is because this is something that has impacted everyone globally. And because you do need to take an airplane to go and travel with us, right? We are very dependent on airlift. We're very dependent on government and international entities that are right now discussing the world of travel in the future. And so I think it's going to be gradual, it'll be ship by ship. And there's going to be a lot of proof of concepting, right? So we're going to start small and then expand upon what's working, what's not, et cetera, because that's just the way that as our brand, that's how we operate. We want to make sure that things work before we go out and do something that then may be to try and go out there too quickly and not do the right by our customer side and then tarnish the brand perception, et cetera. So I think it's going to be gradual. Absolutely. It's dependent on making sure that our guests can arrive safely to the ship, that they're not, their experience is not jeopardized, their health is not jeopardized. And then once we're on board our ship, Ryan talked about this, we are a floating hotel. That means that we only have maximum 150 to 190 passengers, 100 in France, right? Very intimate experience. Our ship, our crew to guest ratio is actually, kind of 1-to-1. So for every passenger, we have a crew member. So there's a lot of space on board our ships. We have larger staterooms. So we have a lot less people on our ship than you would a standard either other river cruise ship or any other ship. And so it is already a very safe environment. I think today in what we are expecting when we do start traveling again, it's just going to be more about the protocols that we instill, to ensure that everything is served to the client. There's nothing put out so that they can go and grab, nothing buffet style. We don't really have a lot of buffet style, but nothing that they can go and grab or have accessible. And so, we're all designing what that experience is going to be. And no one has it defined at 100%. Because we are very dependent on what the authorities tell us that we can do, what the governments tell us that we can do, and of course, what the airlines and the hotels will be doing when we sell those services to our guests, and we expect for them then to arrive safely.
I love that. It sounds like health and safety is going to be the number one priority, and then probably that's 1A. 1B right next to it is going to be brand obsession and make sure that we're delivering supreme customer experience. We know what's ahead for the customers. Let's talk a little bit about the cruise line industry and the people involved in it, right? So right now, a lot of people are working remotely. Give us perspective on how you're managing a remote team.
Again, more accessibility than ever before. You have a lot of things that happen in a team. You have parents that now have to homeschool their children. So I think it's about more flexibility in our work schedule than ever before. Touching base on a daily basis, because I can tell you that because of our agility and moving so quickly, communication within the teams is incredibly important, because what was valid yesterday may not be valid today. So that daily morning check-in is incredibly important, not only with the leaders, but the actual teams that are going to be executing the work. And so that's something that we never had before. The daily check-ins was not something that we ever needed because we were there in person, and we had a process. And so our process right now has been cut in terms of, transition and agility and change. And so communication right now is more important than ever. I think productivity levels are extremely high, but there is also a high level of anxiety because we do have personnel that, although they're happy that they have, they're still employed, they may have a mother that's a nurse that's taking care of patients, and so there's a lot of anxiety. And so we're just trying to be as understanding as possible about every individual, like we have always been, and just being flexible. I think the more flexible that you are with your people and how you operate. And sometimes we get so, when you have a passion, Bryan, you have a project that you're very passionate about, you get very stuck to it, right? And so when you have to throw something away or not doing anymore, that becomes painful. And so I think right now what's happening is everything that we had in the plan, that we had worked so hard, our marketing calendar, our marketing tactics, the fact that we're not doing that, and now we're doing a whole set of new, tactics, and our calendar looks completely different. It's challenging because we want to make sure that everyone stays up to speed in knowing and being conscious that everyone has their own personal situations at home.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Bryan, I know you and I talk about this all the time. I mean, work-life balance, right, was a thing. And, truthfully, I think we're all striving for work-life integration. Talk to us, Bryan, on your end, man, a little bit about, just broadly speaking, like your vision for the future of work, right? So Janet, by the way, Bryan's a mask expert now. He's been hunting for PPEs, just like getting protection equipment for the team. Right. I mean, like obsessive about making sure the team is going to be safe and sound.
Absolutely.
Bryan, talk to us on your end, man, as you're thinking about the future of workplace, right? Cruise line or not, just in general.
Yeah. No, look, a lot of the things that we do are going to be reevaluated, right? Like, the things from they're saying the handshake is dead, it's really sad because I like handshakes. But I think
I'm a hugger.
I'm a hugger. I'm in. That. And so I think there's going to be things we have to figure out. I think our office is very collaborative. We have a lot of shared space. We have a lot of large conference rooms. We have breakout rooms. We have a little kind of pod areas where people can get together, and we have more compressed workspace because we have more kind of collaborative space. And so we may need to reassess spacing, I think, is one thing that everyone's been talking about, and some of those things. I think, to Jan's point earlier, the technology component has really been an interesting, concept as how we look at growing our business and talent, where we've wanted them to come to South Florida and work in our office, or Austin and work in our office. And not that we don't want to continue to grow those office space footprints, because we do, but I do still believe collaboration and the human connection brings a better level of work when we can all be in the same room, and we can riff, and we can collaborate, and we can strategize, and there's value. But I also think that some individual, skill sets that are hard to find different markets could work, well remotely with some more space travel to the offices. So I think,
Bryan, you hit it right on. Yeah. So you hit on something that I think is a really huge revelation during these times, which is, and this was actually, I'm quoting Rudy. He's like, do we even need an office? Like, we're not in a hurry to go back to our office. We're like, we're pretty, we're operating pretty good here on a remote basis. Why do we have this overhead cost again? And so it's also opened up our eyes, knowing that there's so much talent that has been furloughed and laid off. Like the moment we don't have a hiring freeze anymore, we're going to have so much talent that we can acquire. And it doesn't have to be necessarily here in California. Sure. It could be anywhere in the world you find the right talent. And for us, it was so important for them to be local, like in the past. And that's something that really, this has shown us a revelation. Well, maybe we don't have to, have them all here in Calabasas, California, because it's very hard, as we live outside of a big city hub, and there's lots of traffic in LA, it's very hard for us to acquire talent. So we're like, wow, we just have, we've just changed the way that we're thinking as leaders of how we want to operate our corporate headquarters.
Calabasas and LA on a map looks pretty close, but in real life, it's not an easy commute. And even for us with Miami, I mean, we're close enough. If you're North Miami, it can work. But if you're coming from South Miami or Gables or something, just forget about it. But yeah, I think we have one remote employee who moved from Florida away to Michigan, Blake, so if he's watching, and he was the first one to kind of prove me wrong on being able to work remote. And I was like, oh, maybe it's just, this scenario. But yeah, I think our team's working with high conviction and efficiency, and we're getting things done. I think we're all craving the human interaction. We have a very collaborative office. You walk in our office, it's buzzing, people are moving around.
It is.
And I think that's a huge piece to motivation. But I think we will be open to remote positions or more satellite type offices in the future. I don't think it's necessary to have as much, kind of brick and mortar position anymore. I think people have gotten used to it. I think business travel, to your point again, Jen, will slow down. Even some of our clients that we do with you guys, we do ongoing meetings at least twice a year. Some clients we do quarterly in person. I think that'll slow down maybe to one time in person, 3, remotes. And so I think people are realizing that they can do things differently. I think our workspace, coming back to work, I've been talking to a number of people who are involved here in Florida, including a couple of friends that are, working with the governor, and they're worried about safety, they're worried about liability, they're worried about, health and policy, and then also just people's comfort. I mean, safety is number one. We're all here to drive business goals, but we're all humans, and there's a human health issue at stake, which supersedes financial. Everyone wants to get back to work. I think overall at the office, we're fortunate enough to be able to work remote at a pretty high efficiency. It sounds like you guys are doing the same as far as the staff. But I think we all want to be together. I think we're better together, and that's not going to change. But I think some of the elements around it will change. We're going to have to probably make some physical changes to the space. And I think, that'll potentially be negative. And then positives is we can find amazing talent who's looking for employment and want to join our team. And they don't have to be in South Florida or Austin. I think that's a plus. Let me change.
I think for our sales force, the other thing that came up just recently in a meeting, it's going to be how we take a look at events, trade shows, because, they could add up in terms of cost, and we want to be at every event and every trade show so that our brand is visible for our sales team. And it's like, you look at the price points for some of the stuff, it really hits your budget. And so to see that we're able to now, we just had a virtual expo, a supplier expo, just yesterday or last week. And I was like, wow, and this was very cost effective. And so you kind of you don't need to travel somewhere. So it's going to be really interesting how even hotels that are so reliant on their conferences and their expos, how, even Vegas itself, and it's a huge hub for the biggest conferences in the world. And, people paying a lot of their marketing dollars to get, to really get a lot of leads and contacts. And so that's going to be an interesting world that we will see kind of how they come out of this as well.
Yeah. And even just to that point, I before we started, when we were in the setup, I just left the 2-hour webinar that would have been a full day conference in Miami that I went to last year. That would have been a whole day in Miami, probably an hour drive minimum each way if I picked good times to leave. If I didn't pick good times to leave, it could have been 3 to 4 hours in the car. And I went through the whole virtual conference. It was a compressed format. It's normally a day with lunch and dinner and the whole thing. And it's not as conversative, and I didn't get to see some people that I looked forward to seeing. And that part is certainly negative. But we got the content done, and here I am to talk with you guys with no drive time. So, you're picking up different times and windows. And I do think work-life balance, the beginning of the question that Faheem asked, has been in somewhat jeopardy with COVID and working from home. I read a really good article about this that we were passing around that, the work days increased by probably 2 hours on average. And it's because you don't have the drive times, you don't have the breakdowns. I am usually in a lot of meetings every day. Now I'm on a lot of Zooms. I don't love the sitting so much. I'm usually moving a lot more, but I'm getting more things done because you don't have the commute times. You don't have, those things in between. And then also you get an email and you're like, all right, I'll knock it out because you're going to have to do it anyway. And you walk by your office or your workspace so many more times a day, like, all right, I'll just do that in between these. So it's hard to set those walls. I can say that the last week or so, starting last week, has felt to becoming more homeostasis. That I feel like people are starting to get into a groove and things are becoming a little more stabilized, and my work-life balance is starting to shift a little bit more in a healthier direction. But the first month, it was like all bets are off. This is like startup mode, and we're just working. We're being a resource for our clients and partners who have questions, especially the ones that are impacted. How's the market doing? What's going on with media rates? What can I do? What should I do? And we wanted to be that partner. We wanted to be that resource. So we're all in. We're on offense. Whatever you need. And when you offer, people take you up on it, and we're happy to do it. But it's time, right? And so you start to get more time, and your day stretches, and you can't really have that break. and the separation doesn't exist. Like I'm home, or I'm not home. Now I'm home working and I'm working home. So I think it'll get better. And then obviously I think some return to office is, imminent in the next 60 days or whatever it's going to be.
I can tell you that as a working mom, for me being at home with my family, I could tell you that the most positive thing has been, just the ability to have lunch together with the family or being home in time for dinner. My husband travels a lot, and so he's been home a lot more. So I think, the silver lining is that we are working, right? We don't stop. I don't stop working now because, to your point, you're always on and you're connected. But I think that we're also able to spend as leaders and executives, I think we're able to spend so much more time with our families and quality time with our family than we have, that I have personally ever done before because of my very busy schedule as a working mom, trying to just figure out the whole work-life balance, all of my career.
Yeah. 100%. I can tell you, I have 2 young kids at home. My youngest is 7 months, and the amount of time I've gotten with him in the last 2 months compared to my first son, who's 3.5, it's not even close. Like the level of connection that I have. And often I'd run out, to work and I'd have to get on the road, and I would eat a granola bar on the way out or something, or a protein bar for breakfast. Now I'm having 3 meals a day with my family. I'm forcing myself to have a lunch break. It's one of the positive habits that I've adapted and I've held. So you have an hour reset to break and take a break from a long day and see the kids, or, being able to cut that drive time away just to get a little extra half hour before bedtime for the infant because he goes to bed. And those little things add up. I mean, it makes a big difference. The family bond is at an all-time high, which has been amazing. So there are definitely positives to this as well.
Absolutely. We
A
always
lot of negatives, but some positives for sure.
Exactly.
Yeah. Janet, I want to ask one more, and then we'll open up the floor for the rest of the team. Something that seems to be ever evolving is goal setting, right? And I think a lot of large companies have fiscal year targets and quarterly and monthly and so on and so forth. Because the situation is so dynamic, how are you setting organizational-wide goals for your team and for your partners?
We have new KPIs, right, is what I call it. There's a lot of, we are right now trying to retain as much business as ever before. We're really looking at the past guests who know us, who have been such great advocates of our brand. And so we're really looking at even our loyalty program. So our goals right now and our objectives and our KPIs are very different, of course, because it's not about booking, it's not about revenue, it's not about ROI. It's not about cost per lead. It really truly is about retaining the business. It's about engagement. It's about connections. And, when we start back up, it's going to be, we don't necessarily have to sail full. It's not going to be about, sailing at 100% capacity. It's going to make sure it's going to be about delivering a highly satisfactional experiences for our guests, whether that's, 50% capacity versus 100% capacity. And so the financials, like I mentioned previously, it's less about the financial right now. And I think for the next few months and maybe into a year or two, it's going to be, of course, we all have financials. We all need to ensure that we have the revenues that we need to cover our costs. But, it's really interesting to see new KPIs coming about and how important that retention of business is, especially for the travel advisors that we work with, right? Because they're our partners in this, and whatever we do, it's impacting their business, and they're small business owners as well. And so we have a huge responsibility to be able to support them. They have had to furlough their employees, and so they don't have the marketing support. So now they're looking to us even to help them with their marketing, sales, and their KPI establishments, their objectives. So our teams actually have moved away from being a marketing brand team to now being a marketing support for our travel advisors and being a little bit of a mini agency for them, because we understand our consortias, our national accounts, they have, a slim team. And so we want to help them grow. So because if they are still here for the long run, we will be here. And so we really moved from cost per lead at a guest level to now cost per lead. How many travel advisors are we acquiring through this that used to do business with other people that are now bringing their book of business to us? And so it's really right now about new KPIs, and it's not necessarily about ROI.
I love that. That's wonderful. And I think, look, the reality is that the situation is so dynamic, and I feel like things are, to Brian's point earlier, like starting to become a bit more homeostasis. Like this is the new normal for now. Certainly, the hope is that it isn't for a long time. You know, I mean, I'm ready to kind of go out and explore and
Right.
get back into an office and start meeting people and all of that. But I think the takeaway for the audience that's listening is agility and speed is a competitive advantage. And if you are able to move fast and take chances and adapt quickly, you will win.
And it's
Jen,
okay to fail, right? So one of the things that people fear the most is failure. And
yep,
for us, failure has been our biggest learn. Like we have learned so much. It's been our biggest education in the last 6 weeks because nobody had the answer to anything. And
yep,
so sometimes it meant let's get out there quickly to get something out because people are looking for information. And you know what? We made a lot of mistakes. And so that it is okay to fail as well. And I think it's just how you dust off and you move forward. And so those that are able to dust themselves off and keep going and not, ponder too much on what that failure was all about, but just learn from it about, okay, check that. We won't do that again. Let's move now in this direction. And so I think it's definitely about agility, but failure is okay.
absolutely, absolutely. I want every CMO that's going to be listening to this to pay attention to that comment because truly agility and speed will be the competitive advantage. You know, Janet, one last comment and perhaps even a question before we dive into the public Q&A is, yesterday you mentioned something to me that I thought was interesting. You said the future of business is going to be boutique in nature,
Yeah.
instead of like large businesses trying to maneuver. Like it's really difficult to change direction as a whale, but it's very easy when you're not a whale. And so talk to us a little bit about what you meant by that.
I'm excited to see the small business community. I know they've been hit really, really hard during these times, but I do feel as if some of the smaller brands, it's been really amazing to see how they have been able to survive and been very creative of how they've shifted. We had our local favorite restaurant that all of a sudden just started doing care packages. They had all of these supplies. And right away, beginning of times, there was no toilet paper and and they put an essentials packet together. And I remember, going over there and when I realized what I had paid for each item, I was like, this is a lot of money, but so it's really how they reinvent themselves as a brand. You do have some, of course, challenges because you don't have all the resources that a bigger brand may have with all the personnel and all the access and the budgets, et cetera. But we know that large organizations, right, there's a lot of silos, there's a lot of, bureaucracies, and there's a lot of processes that hinder progress at times and that are not, you're not able to execute as quickly as, or make the decisions because you do need to go through all of these decision-making processes to be able to get something approved. And so I'm really excited to see those smaller boutique brands that have pivoted and changed and have followed kind of best practices during these times that, although we don't have anything prescribed as to what we're supposed to do, we all know that, this has been a huge change and it's hit us all at once. And so I'm very excited to see small brands really, rise to the occasion and really, set themselves apart and really do good by their customer side. So I'm excited to see those that will come from this and what they're going to come out of, how are they going to reinvent themselves or what they're going to be doing, because it's going to be a lot easier for those smaller businesses than it will be for the larger businesses that are hurting so much. They're the ones that had to go low, the most employees.
Yep.
They have now slim staffs and lots of, departments and areas and functions. And so it will be very great to see, some of the smaller guys, rise to the occasion.
Yeah. Something that we pride ourselves on Lamark, people often ask, like, how do you work with the kind of brands that you work with and service them at such a top tier level? And I think it's a simple answer. I mean, we're big enough to be stable and dependable, and we're small enough to be nimble and agile, right? And I think when you are a large, we have Fortune 500 clients and we have early stage companies as well, like literally, 10-person companies. And the engagement model is fascinating because it's different for each client, but the way we work with each client is so unique and different that we're able to cover ground across the entire spectrum of things. And so I love that you said that, because it's truly at the core of what we believe as well, is when you work with large agencies, you're getting 30 people, kind of bodies on the account, but it's really not effective, right? It's a perceived value. It's not actual value. On the opposite end, you have small kind of early stage agencies that are trying to service the larger clients, and they just don't have the expertise or the engagement models or systems, et cetera.
And it truly becomes, to me, at least our agency, we have very little agencies, and because of we are small brands, but to me, I feel the Lamark team is an extension of our team, because we have very limited resources. And so instead of being one of hundreds of agencies that show up to a marketing meeting, and you have from all your insights agency, your media agency, your brand agency, et cetera. And everybody, to your point, it's hundreds of people in a meeting room. We have a lot more intimate relationships. And then I know that we have a lot of people in Lamark Media that have become experts in our brands and can talk about AmaWaterways the way that I talk about AmaWaterways, or an employee of ours speaks about AmaWaterways. And so there are benefits. We also know the importance of our brand. We may be working with a larger agency where we're just a little snippet. And so we do strive ourselves in all of our working relationships being with the smaller brands, because we know that, our budgets are not as large, and you will not get as, the much attention or the many staff that will be assigned to your team. And so we realize that there's better value for our dollar working with like-minded organizations and brands and companies, not only that have our values, but really understand that they are an extension of our team, that we're not just an agency that we're paying for services.
Absolutely. Absolutely. The moment I told the team that we're going to be interviewing Janet, they're like literally 10 comments at a time. She's awesome. She's awesome. Can't wait. She's awesome. So
I would say the same thing about your team. Honestly, it's really great. Very, very intelligent people. Like, I just love talking to, because I'm like, so what's going on with this? Or if I were to really want to get up to date on something, right, I'll call Bryan or I'll call Mike, and just really trying to, and I feel like when I finish that conversation, I learned something from that conversation that I didn't have before. And I just became a better marketer because of that conversation.
I feel the same.
The feeling and the love is mutual.
I feel the same way when I talk to these guys. Cool. I know we're almost at time. Just rapid fire questions. Johnny, I can take them. So Dylan asks, I've never worked with a travel agent. So what are some of the pros and cons of working with one, and what do you suggest?
I will tell you that in 2010, so longer than that. Oh my God, I'm really old. 14, 15 years ago, when I worked at a mass market brand, working on direct marketing, and that's where I grew up, I thought the travel agencies are dead. Oh, there's still travel agents? And so I was that person, just like you, that I'm like, what's the value of working with a travel advisor? And lo and behold, we are here in 2020. And the fact that I strive off of working with the travel advisor community, the travel advisor community, especially now in this day and age, they know every single supplier. So you have our luxury clientele, and it seems to be that, the more that you spend on your vacation, it's very likely that you are going to use a travel advisor, because if you're spending $10,000, $20,000 on a vacation, $5,000, that's a huge sum of money. You want to make sure that you're making the right decisions. And although we have more data than ever before and access to information, and we can always go to an online travel agency to get and do that research, at the end of the day, you have to do that work. So if you're committed and if you have the time to do all the research that you need and you enjoy that, there are people like that. But there are people like me that I want to go on a family vacation. I trust you, Bryan, to make my travel decisions. You know me, you know my family, you know my likes. And so you're going to choose the right hotel for me. Because honestly, to go through reviews right now, we all go through reviews, and you have to really dig deep inside to see, yeah, maybe people call it 5 stars, but it's not right for family. So why should I take my kids? Or maybe it's better for smaller kids. So a travel advisor is a consultant. And, you wouldn't necessarily use it if you're going to do a staycation and you're going to go, close to home. But if you're going to travel to Europe, you're going to travel to Asia, to Africa, you need to take an airplane. You need to get your transfers to the hotel. They're going to make sure that you're taken care of. That flight is delayed, and you don't have to be on the phone with Delta 3, hours, or wait for them to call you back. You call your travel advisor, and they were going to take care of that for you. So they provide services in your travel planning that really alleviates you from having to do all the work. And they have really strong relationships with suppliers where they get you a better deal sometimes than what you can find online. And they really want your business. So even if you're a deal seeker or you're not looking for the best or the most luxurious vacation, you can contact a travel advisor and say, tell me what you have, because I know what you have may not be public out there in the public world, because what we see out there in terms of published rates, it's really for the public, right? For everybody to see. But travel advisors have very unique relationships with suppliers, hotels and airlines and cruise lines. And so they'll be able to really package up your vacation for you and for your family, that where you don't have to worry about a thing. I can tell you that there's a lot of people right now who book their travel through a travel advisor that are very happy that they did, because they're the ones that were very much helped during these COVID, right? The travel advisors knew who to call at AmaWaterways to get them through and get them to talk to somebody. And so I know that instead of having to, customers really appreciate, and we see a lot of articles about that, that the travel advisors, although they're very much hurting, like all of us are, because a lot of their business got canceled. And if the business doesn't happen, they don't get their commissions. So they're in a lot of, financial troubles as well. But I can tell you that they have a book of business right now that's very happy that they used a travel advisor. So I do recommend, if you're going to invest in a nice vacation for you and for your family, for you to contact a travel advisor. Make sure that they're also a travel advisor who knows what they're doing, who's been in it for a while, who's really serious about, and it is a business for them. And so to ensure that you're getting the most accurate and the best information. But yes, absolutely. Travel advisors are around. There's more than 100,000 travel advisors just in the US alone. They're a huge business for us. They're over 95% of their business. They continue to grow. Canada is huge for us. The UK, we're a global organization. In Asia, we have a lot of partners. In the US, I would say, even with all the technology advancements and consumers being such avid travelers and shopping for themselves, you still have a huge number, especially the luxury clientele, that uses their travel advisor to book their plans.
Yeah. No, I appreciate you sharing that. Whenever we're ready to get back out in the waters, I think, Bryan, first thing we have to do is figure out a way to get on the Ama cruise, man. We've been talking about it, but obviously when the world opens back up in the right way.
We could do a podcast from on board the ship together, right? And invite our participants that are on the phone to come with us. We'll get you a nice friends and family deal to come on board with Ama, and absolutely, let's go experience what we've been talking about for the last couple of minutes.
Absolutely. After this period, I think we may need to do that wine cruise. That might be the.
I don't know. That I'm actually torn between a wine cruise. Do I want to do wine? Do I want to go to the Mekong Asia? Because Vietnam and Cambodia, they honed down on the whole situation, and they don't even have, I think, any active cases anymore. They say the Mekong, the Chobe River, the Mekong River is the most beautiful experience. It's a life-changing. So I'm between wine and Mekong. We may either go on the western side or the eastern side. We'll see.
Do both.
I'm sure there's wine on both voyages.
There is. There's lots of wine. Let me tell you, free-flowing wine when you do cruise with AmaWaterways. Free-flowing wine and beers during lunch and dinner. We have a cocktail hour every single day, a happy hour every single day with open bar for an hour. So you will not, believe you me, you will have, and also we pair the wines with the destinations. So when you go to Austria, it was one of my favorite wines when I did the Danube River last summer. The cuisine also, we're gonna be eating very well, let's say.
That's awesome. That's awesome. So everyone's going to be hydrated is what Janet is saying.
Yes, there's bikes on board. So everything that we eat and drink, we get on that bicycle and tour the city the next day. So don't worry.
Burn it off.
That's balance.
Keep our activity going. Yes, it's a very active, it's a very active experience. So you could either walk it, you could hike the trail to go to the castle, or you could bike right through the city to explore.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Wonderful. Janet, thank you so much for joining us. This was an amazing conversation. I know it was one that a lot of people were looking forward to. So thank you for taking the time.
Absolutely. My pleasure. And thank you everyone who joined in on the call. I know it's very busy times for everyone. So whether you're enjoying this, after the fact, or if you're enjoying it live, thank you so much for listening, and let us know if you want to come and sail with AmaWaterways. I say that really true. Once we start sailing, I think this is something that you're going to want to try and experience.
Absolutely.
The
Absolutely.
best kept secret in travel. I tell everybody that. I'm like, I've been in travel all of my life, all of my career, and this has been the best kept secret in travel. And I say that not because I'm a CMO, but it really truly is something that I don't think a lot of people know about, and they're just missing out if they don't.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So we'll get everyone to friends and family. We'll talk offline about that.
We'll need it. We'll need it. Believe you me, we all want to travel and connect, and bring your family and members that are all over the world that you're dying to connect with, and let's meet on board an AmaWaterways ship.
Love it.
Absolutely. Absolutely. All right. Thank you, Janet. Thanks, Bryan.
Thank you, everyone. Bye.